I got run by, make sure we have, that it shows up all right.
You gonna run it today, or you want me?
I'll get you a run.
Sure, Jeff. I got your ID.
Just take. Pass the cup.
You'll forget that.
You're gonna forget that guy.
I'll be there when I come back.
Next
I'm
year.
just saying on my man, so you don't.
Now you really forget it.
Well, that's pretty tough. I'll take it.
We just had an accident.
You should see that she moved your cup. Where'd you go?
Oh, she moved it?
She took it. I say, she'll lose it every time. There's Dave Patchett.
Yes, sir.
I hadn't seen him in forever.
You bet.
You were fine where you were.
You got it right, you got the hours.
I'm gonna how to do it.
Is that smart? Decide not to trip us.
Move on. Say we did it.
Lock the door, wait till you back.
You late? Don't get credit for it.
I'm gonna get happy.
You ready?
Ready as I'm gonna get.
All right, good morning. Kate Adder and myself, Steve Tutt. We're gonna be going over ECOs. Kay will be covering the systems portion of the ECO system, and I'll be covering the information system, information portion of it. Today we have Kim Helpham here from Production Control to answer any of the timing questions on ECOs for you. And I think there's, Kim knows all about that area, I know very little about it. So please sign in to get credit for this. This will show up in your personal history records. And
We probably get one
from the state for a change.
You wanna take these tests?
There will be a test. Most of you will be familiar with the information that's going to be covered today, but there probably will be some information that will be helpful to the old heads in here that know the system already. And so, without further ado, Case, when we get started with the system.
Morning, everybody. Thanks for coming. I think just about everybody knows me. I'm Kate Adder. I work for the IS Department of Cecil Conger. Everybody knows how to sign. Everybody in this class should know some basic stuff about the system. How to sign on. How to sign HDR1. The main menu screen is EOR 0. This is a screen that we're going to choose what product we're going to write the ECO for. So what we do is just scroll down through our products, select one with an S, and then if we're going to do a production ECO, we hit our F13 key. If we're going to do an advanced ECO, we're going to hit our F19 key. That will give us the next available ECO number and pull us to the first screen of our input. EORA is our first. EORA will fill in the ECO number. We're going to use one that's already in the system. 8 ECA 3 69. This is basically a fill in the blanks. Takes your user ID, your TID, and it knows a little bit about you. It knows your phone number and SIMs and things like that. At this point, we're just going to put in a brief description of the change, the reason that we're making this particular change. if we run out of room, there's some additional space for the description of change here with our F14 key, or additional reasons for the change, F20. Get me another page so I put some more input in.
Okay, with this screen, if you look on page 4 in your booklet there, there's some questions. We're going to go over a few questions that are, most people will drop by and ask me, so I've been keeping a list of questions lately. We're just going to go over this. I picked out a few. If you look at page 4, the bottom question there, the what product code would I use to change taping specs? And I'm asked that very often. Tool engineering is the only one that should change a taping spec. And they would use MFGX product code, because that is a part of the process. And then if you turn over to page 7, the insert on page 56 is very important. You might want to look over that later. I think it just describes the different types of ECOs. For page 7, there's some questions about information on this screen right here, on the EOR A and EOR Z screen. And if you look at the second question there, what board numbers require an EPL change? And this is because we have two types of board numbers right now. We have 8-digit board numbers, which is the old boards, and then we have the 10-digit board numbers. On the 8-digit board numbers, you do not have to list an EPL change because it does not carry the NIC for the revision of the board on the EPL. On the 10-digit boards, raw board I'm talking about, you must change the EPL. And so that's the difference. Eventually, we'll phase out the old 8-digit board numbers, and this will not be a problem any longer. It says, may I change a PC board with an AMC ECO? No, absolutely not, because the board requires a new drawing every time. And so an AMC is an advanced manufacturing change, which does not require the documentation at that particular time of incorporation. And so in order to load a new board number in or a new revision number in, I must have the drawing. And so it's not feasible to use an AMC to change a board. Look, another question that's asked very often is it okay to list a change to a part on the EOR-A screen up on, and not on the EOR-D screen? EOR-D screen is the screen where you list the documentation that you're changing. And quite often, somebody will list down in their text that, hey, I'm changing this drawing, but they forget to put it on EOR-D screen, so it's not changed by drafting. And it's very important that any piece of document that you're changing, that it's on the EOR-D screen if you have it listed on the EOR-A screen, because it will not get changed. And then you'll come back later and say, hey, drafting, why didn't you change this? Because it wasn't listed. Another question, do I use an advance or a production ECO to change a production release drawing with an advanced part number on it? This is where we get into charting, and you can release an advanced part number on a production release drawing. But if you're going to change that advanced part number, it takes an advanced ECO, because we're changing something that's in the advanced stage. So should I use an AMC to production release a new end item assembly or any assembly that is not replacing an existing assembly? You do not have to use an ECO to do that. You can use a draft and request notice and just go ahead and production release it. It can be sitting out there waiting on you to put it in to a usage. And may I change an EPL with an OK to tool ECO? OK to tool is strictly to change a PF, purchase finished, or purchased assembly part. No EPL changes. OK to tool strictly for that. If a drawing is required to load an AMC, should the ECO be an AMC? And I've already covered that. No, it should not be. And that pertains to a spec too. A lot of times people add a spec to an AMC where you just put that AMC on hold for documentation when you do that.
Steve, what about PIAs and OK tools?
PIA, you must have the PA assembly. If you're not changing the number itself, you know, you're just changing a dimension or something, then you must list the PA and the PIA, because we're buying the PA part, not the
Okay.
PIA part.
So it is conceivable that you could do an OK tool for a PA.
Yeah, oh yeah, yeah, long as you're not changing the EPL.
Well, if you change the PIA, you will be changing.
Not unless you change the number. If you're not changing the part number itself, you know, you're just making a dimension change on it. Is an ECO required to add a new part number to a charted drawing? No, we covered that. When do I use a documentation change basis for a change? If there's any cost involved at all, you do not use a documentation change on it, period. I wish we could get that one off. Because purchasing they won't sign up for it if there's any cost. Why do I need the part number that calls out an HPF, a Huntsville performance spec? Production control buys by part number, not by specs. And so that's why you must list, on this screen right here, you must list the part number that HPF goes with, pertains to. Any questions on this screen? Or on the ER, Z screen, or any questions?
Show the Z screen here.
Z screen's on page 9. We'll go ahead and cover some more questions. Look on page 9 on the ER Z screen. It'd be a credit to Ron Allen for giving me this, but if you look at what's the easiest way to add information to the ER Z screen, I know sometimes if you're typing in and then you leave out something, and you try to insert and all this, it gets real screwed up, okay? And if you'll use this Microsoft Word 97, you just go down and use what's described there. It's a lot easier to put text in that way. It says, what should I be careful about on this ER Z screen? And this is a good example. It says, replace old assemblies with new assemblies. This will inactivate the old assembly and activate the new assembly. The wording there is very critical. If you use the word cancel an assembly, that does not necessarily mean you're replacing an old assembly. If you use the word cancel, you're just canceling that assembly. You're not replacing it with something. So use the word replace with if you're going from AB to AC, you know, see they use the word cancel. That's wrong. It should have been replaced with. Because if I get this document, I'm just going to cancel out that. And I'm not going to put on the information there that it was replaced by anything. It was just canceled. And same thing here. I'm not going to say, hey, this AC replaced AB because it didn't say that. And so it's critical that we use the correct wording there. Cancel assemblies and add assemblies. This does not replace the old assemblies and the new assemblies. And that's a big factor there because drafting looks at that. And they determine from that whether to put on their drawing, replaced by, replaced with. They use this information and the way it's worded. Any comments on that or any questions? Okay, Kay, we'll go to the next one.
You notice, he's changing the transaction code, but he could also just do his PF13 and it'll just string you through the screens, next. EORB, all we have to do here is, again, fill in the blanks. What type of effectivity code is it? All the different effectivity codes are listed in the handout. It is important to consider obsolescence. Are we going to count obsolescence for our plant, for the supplier? We need to know. That's important in actually implementing that ECO once it gets approved. We're going to select our basis of change. We're just going to put our little X in there, on whichever one is appropriate for this particular ECO. And if you have PCM here, you want to be sure and put the number down. That will expedite your ECO getting approved. So a PCN number, we got something to charge it to. It's very, very helpful. This one here has the quote number also. So that's a good assistance.
Any questions on timing? Ken helping would be glad to answer. I know a lot of times, sometimes gets involved in these CCOs, and production control might call you, hey, you need obsolescence on this or you don't need it. Any questions on B1, B2?
I guess if you're doing this as a result of the CN, there's a requirement that the timings match.
Ken?
Yes. You missed some automatic with and without obsolescence, you can't change no matter what.
Yeah, yes, there is. On AMCs with I think it's a AE, A1, and B1. I believe it automatically with obsolescence. You can't change that.
Okay, the tool has to be with obsolescence
Yeah. AMCs are with obsolescence, emergencies are with. That's kind of a gray area right now. They used to be with obsolescence total. I mean, if it was an emergency. But an AMC definitely is, because you're telling manufacturing that, hey, this is a go. I don't care what it costs. A lot of times your AMCs are written from RFRs from them. So. Any other questions on that? Then we'll go to C.
I've got a question.
Yeah.
A lot of times, the urgency of getting your ECO out there to get all the documentation done, you don't have your PCN number yet. What do you do in a case like that?
Come see me. I will load them in, because I do realize that's a problem.
So we just put pending in there or something? Or?
Yeah, you need to, if you're going to have an PCN or a CN,
Yeah.
go ahead and put a CN question mark. That way that lets people know that you are going to have it, you just don't know the number.
Okay.
But I usually, that's one exception, I will go back and put it in for you, because I do realize that, you don't have it sometimes, and you write DC.
URC is our cost estimate. The costs in here are to your best knowledge. Some engineers choose to go out and find out the exact real cost of the change. That's wonderful. If not, you can make an educated guess at it at your piece price. You've got piece price we fill in, you've got your volume to be considered, any tooling costs, and it'll go ahead and do the final total for you according to the volume that you've indicated. DV and PV testing, please indicate whether that is required and if it has been accomplished yet or not. Also, if you have an ECO number, go ahead and put it down here. We want that number. Another very important part is the coordination required. If this ECO is part of a group of ECOs, 2 or 3 that are linked together, interdependent, interrelated, please be sure and list all those ECOs. That's the only way that we'll know to stay coordinated between those. Questions? Yeah?
I never really have any idea what the ECO volume is. Talked to Curtis upstairs and he said he pretty well ignores whatever we put in anyway. So is there a place where we can get some kind of non-official number for a particular part number?
That's a good question.
Ken, do you know? Is there a place that they can find where the volume?
It's got a particular part number, you said, if it's for an end item, I can give you a volume on, if we change the part numbers, I can usually give you a volume on the old part number. Which is usually we carry, yeah.
You know where we can go to do that, or we gotta call you? Or
Well, you can call me and I can tell you on the phone. Or I can get it for you, it doesn't take that long. You have to go, I don't know if people are authorized to use that screen, that's the only reason I'm not telling you now, because I don't know.
So for sure, Specs Group can look that information up for you. And it may be possible for you to be able to look it up yourself. We can check on that. Maybe Ken and I can run a test after class.
Does the cost that you have up there override any standard costs that get accumulated when you do add and deletes or replace widths? You know that? I mean, if you leave it blank here and then go to the next screen where you put in the parts that have standard costs associated with them, they get filled in automatically off the database.
On the EOR old screen, you're talking about where
Yeah.
the cost comes in automatically.
Right.
If you're changing something, because this is an estimated cost of changes, then you need to reflect that, as much as possible.
You can use
Sometimes you
H7.
don't always have all the
H7
costs.
will give you some data on that.
And I know it's not, the one screen is automatic, but this screen is what you actually have to fill in.
Okay, so they're
This
not
this
linked
does not
together.
relate to that. The screen you're talking about, actually, when they add the cost up, Bob Miner or somebody over there, I'm not really sure who it is on different products, it's different person over there. But that's what they look at, and they compare it to what you have put on that screen. And if it's in the ballpark, they let it go. If not, they usually call you, don't they?
What's the difference between EORO and EORZ?
Well, we'll be getting to
You
that.
seem to be replacing things with things.
We'll get to that screen in just a few minutes. We're gonna go to, anybody have any more questions on cost, estimated cost?
If you have the AORC screen, why would you need a quote to be the R4 if you have that screen? Why is that?
What do you need, quotes?
Right.
This is an estimate. This is just strict. Even though cost uses it more than for an estimate, this is an estimate. This is your best guess at what this change is gonna cost. That doesn't necessarily mean that it's correct. But on a quote, that is gonna be, the cost people are gonna go by that.
You would think, you would use that same screen because you don't have the same.
They do look at it, don't get me wrong, they look at that, and then they compare it to what the actual cost of the ECO is. And if it's way out of line, you'll get a call, most of them probably have got a call from them. Or they want, they'll hold the ECO and want more information or something
On the EORO screen, I know it pulls in cost automatically, it's in the database, does.
Yes.
It's a new part, you put in an estimate. or you
Yeah.
have it broken in.
71.
Yeah, on a new part, you know, that doesn't exist yet, you know, I'll have to look at this, because I don't do it that often. I think you can put the cost in yourself.
You can put it in, I just wanted to.
Yeah, I think you can. You need to, because it's new. I mean, so if you have an old one at $84 and you don't put something in there for the new, it shows 0, you know, that's pretty good cost savings. But you do need to put something in there. Okay, let's go to EORD screen.
I get corrected on the screen last time, so I'm not gonna do that again. They have a drawing part number listed here. If you had just done just the part number, it could have picked up the description for you. But the EORD screen does want both the drawing number and the part number. So when we make that combination, drawing number, part number, you actually have to physically key in the description. Drawing part description. Certain things need to be known. Is our service or our warranty going to be affected by this ECO? Let us know. Is the PPAP required? And what is our lineup code? Some people don't automatically know what the lineup code is. So in a handout, he's got a list of all the lineup codes and what they need for your reference.
I don't know what load 999.
Well, that's something I put in there, don't worry about that. I'll tell you about that in just a minute. Look on page 14 of your handout. Go over a few of these questions. These are the most often asked questions about this screen. It says, why do I have trouble with drawing an EPL number? Entering drawing an EPL number carefully, because what you enter right here on EORO screen must match exactly that. You can't, or it won't show up on the EORO screen. We'll get to that screen in a minute. So it's very important that you list drawing number and part number. Is PPAP always in or no? On Huntsville assemblies, it's always in. On purchased finished parts, it should be a Y. And drafting uses this information to put on the drawing. And that column on the drawing, they get it from right there. So if you've got a Y for this part number at Rev B and you're going to C and you've got no there, the next time, I mean on this change right here, they're going to put an N over there because you told them. It doesn't automatically stay a Y if you told them to put an N there. They do go by this information. Should I change HXYs if I change the board? And to be safe, I would list them, and then if you don't actually change them, I'll be glad to remove them for you. But you should list the HXYs if you're changing the board.
How do you
because
list it up?
it's gonna get kicked back to you if you don't.
How do you list it up there, both sides, or just one?
HXY right here, and then just list what it is. If it's test point,
I won't kick
put the
down.
test point. And then out here it'd be NN and reference. May I list parts with dash numbers? We no longer use dash numbered part numbers. May I use the word all for assembly part numbers? Like right here, instead of listing these three, Some people like to put the word all there. We don't buy, we don't build the word all. We build part numbers and assembly numbers, and so please put the assembly number, because that's critical. Because if you put the word all right there instead of listing these three, they really don't know, drafting doesn't know what EPLs you're talking about.
Production control doesn't either.
And production control don't, they don't buy all.
And if it gets past configuration and it's got all, more than likely, my people would reject the
Yeah.
ECO.
It says, may I list the drawing and EPL together? If the assembly number is the same as the drawing number, you can come over here and put drawing and EPL on the same line. The ref will only be the drawing ref, not the EPL ref, if you decide to do it that way. That's your choice. I prefer listing them separate myself. But anyway,
Can we leave the revs blank? Sometimes drafting changes.
you have to put something in there
Okay.
for it.
Does it have to be correct?
There has to be something in there. And I know sometimes you don't really know the latest
Yeah,
ref.
sometimes they bump it twice.
Yeah,
or-
right.
Is a question mark an adequate something?
I would, go over to the, well, since it's online now, you can go to the screen and see what the latest one is and put that in. Because I know sometimes you're not aware that there's another change in process. When this ECO is released, that will be the correct thing, because I corrected it. Okay? Right revision will be there, because I put it in. Yeah, and I take it directly off the drawing or EPL, so. All right, look at another question here. Do I need to list the new sub-assemblies for end items? And this is critical. This can save you some time. This can save you some time in getting your ECO approved. You do not have to list the new sub-assemblies for an end item on this ECO. You can go ahead and production release those with a drafting request notice, have them sitting out there, then waiting on your ECO to be approved for the new end item that has those new sub-assemblies. And so on your ECO, you just list the new end item. Like AB's was replaced by AC. And then your new end item will have those new sub-assemblies in it. And so that can save you some time. If you go down and you create 3 pages of sub-assemblies on this ECO just because they're new, guess what? You just held up your ECO for a while, because drafting has to do it all at one time now. Where they could have had those sub-assemblies out there already released, and then this ECO comes along. Any questions on that? I think you can save yourself some time. What is the lineup code for EPLs? And that's HA and PA, and that's listed in here. What's the lineup code for specs? And that's reference. Why do I need to list the PA purchase assembly number when changing the PIA? We've already talked about that. We buy the purchase assembly, not the PIA. Any questions on this screen? Yeah.
A year or two ago, when I talked to Rick Loveday was in his other job, he specifically wanted the EPL and the drawing on separate lines. I don't know if that's changed since.
Well, EBOM has changed that some.
Oh.
Because if you look at this right here, this is the drawing, and now this is an EPL by itself. When we were charting, yeah, it was okay. But see, we don't chart EPLs anymore. And so it does need to be separate. I mean, in this case, it needs to be separate. If it's the same, and you only have one assembly listed on that drawing, and it's the same as the drawing number, then you can put it on the same number. Any other questions? Okay, we'll go to DORO screen.
So, documentation changes. You can have multiple EPLs associated with a particular ECO. If you do, you should list them. The only problem that we've really ever had with documentation is getting people to understand the difference between an add and delete and a replace with. If I'm completely removing a part, I will not be using that particular part. It's going away. I would use a delete. Same thing, if I'm adding a brand new part where none ever existed before, I would use an add. A majority, however, is probably what we consider a replace with. I'm going to replace this part number with my new part number. When we do that, they have to be sets. I always have to have what is being replaced and what is being replaced with, one right after the other. In certain circumstances, it could be that I'm replacing one part with multiple parts. That's okay, but they have to be a set. Whatever I'm replacing and then what it's being replaced with directly under it. And he referenced the drafting department earlier. It's essential for them. It is essential. They are not getting rid of a part. They are actually replacing it with. And as we noticed earlier, there's our cost difference. There are a couple examples, I believe, in the handout. You can do adds and deletes all day long and mix it in with some replace with. That's okay. But if you are exchanging one part for another, do a replace with, please.
Okay.
Yeah?
When you get down to the very last line, can you still put a replace there?
Yeah, because you could get additional lines.
No.
Or
If you put an R on that very last line and you try to put a W on the next page, it won't work. Has that been fixed?
okay.
You know about that?
Doesn't seem, no, I didn't.
Okay. Steve knows about it.
Yeah, they, Cecil knows about it, but they have had a problem if you try to put a replace on one page and then death on the next page, it blows you off.
It doesn't recognize it. Well, I know this will disappoint you terribly, guys, but I've never written an ECO. I know how the screens function, but, okay.
Yeah, Ron's right. I know, and they have been trying to work on that problem, and it's been a problem for quite a while, and they don't know why it's doing it. And you know, see, every time I talk to them about it, you know, Dennis Young, you know, they still don't understand why it's doing it, because they go through the program and it looks okay, everything looks okay, but it's still doing it. So try to, I hate to say this, but you might want to, you know, try to add some things in and then do a replace with and then delete those out and see if it'll pull it up. It works. So, look at a few of the questions on page 17 and 18. And Kay has already covered this, but this is very important for drafting. The last question, does it matter whether I use add and delete or replace with? If you use add and delete to actually take the place of replace with, it can confuse drafting, because by adding, you're saying that's brand new rep des, and it might already exist on the EPL. And by saying delete, you know, then they're assuming that you want that rep des deleted off that EPL, when that might not be what you're really looking for. That's why it's critical to use a replace with for a rep des, because if you're saying replace, you're saying that rep des does exist already on the EPL, drafted, and you're going to change the part number, not the rep des. So that's, you know, that's something that they look at, Carol and Pat look at. And this, as far as Pat and Carol's concerned over in drafting, this is the most important page on the EPL, on the ECO. That's right Look at page 18, I'll just go over a couple of these real quick. Last two questions. How do I know what the unit of measure is for a part number? I know some people just come over and ask me, and that's fine. But you can use the ENW3 screen on the E-bomb. That'll tell you the unit of measure. Or you can use A21 screen on the H-bomb system, HVIMS system. Both of those will tell you the unit of measure if you're not sure what the unit of measure is. Because that's critical, because if you're coming in here with a unit, quantity of 1, and it's supposed to be grams, and you got pounds there, guess what's going on that EPL? Whatever's right there. And you know they're gonna put whatever you have right there. So it's critical to know what the unit of measure is. And I wouldn't guess at it. You know, if you don't know, come see me or use these two screens. They'll tell you the unit of measure. You have to list a quantity change on this. If you're using 2 of these and you decide you want to use 3, you must do a replacement. You don't have to do a replacement, excuse me. You can just do an add and add 1. And that makes 3 of them on the EPL that way. And now that we have a different ref disk for every, component, you would have to have a new ref disk also. Any questions on this screen?
Did you say you didn't have to list the ref desk like they got it shown there, if it's just a replace 1 for 1?
No, you always list the ref disk, always.
So that's a bad example then?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, it is.
Okay.
Yes, it is. I chose that on purpose. Because, no, really, this should be filled out because now with tool engineering and IEs, you must have rep desk for every component out there on the board. In order to, yeah, you should have, I think they assign A1 or something like that to these. But everything must have a rep desk. And I know we got some old assemblies still in there. And as they come through, those are being changed. Any questions on this screen? This right here must match the EORD screen. Whatever you have on the EORD screen, this right here must match that exactly. It's got to match, or it will not accept it in EORD screen.
Pretty handy to pull up another rumba screen and split it, show both
Yeah.
as you're working on it. Then you can cut and paste it too.
Any questions on this this screen? Kay's going to go over a few screens that you may or may not use, but what we've covered so far is the majority of the screens that you would use to write an ECO.
Just remember inadvertently created an EPL set and had difficulty deleting.
Take this out first and hit enter, and it's good. And then go out of this screen to another screen, and you come back, it's gone.
Should be gone. Okay.
Any other questions? Yes, Randy.
With this new numbering system we've got, technically every time you add a NIC number to it, you're really pulling a whole new assembly. Is that right? If you're doing it on an assembly level?
If you're doing it on the assembly level, you're right. Yeah.
Like if you got a cluster board assembly and you're going to change it, you've got an old number and it's an AA, and you're going to make a change that dictates it become an AB, that's a whole new assembly.
Yes, it is.
How do you ECO the old one to make it become the new one and list the parts there? Because technically the number you're listing up there would be your new part.
You don't have to
number.
list parts there unless production control wants it. You don't have to list, because if you list parts there that's different between AA and AB,
Right.
they never were on AB anyway. Right?
That's what I'm saying. You can't change something that didn't exist, is what.
Right.
Well,
on the EORA screen,
So where do
you
you
need to
list it?
list there that build AB from AA, and then list the parts right there that are different.
So they have to get all their copy and everything off the AA screen, or?
Well, they're gonna get, they can, don't y'all use A16 to, do a comparison from AA to AB?
Okay.
They do a comparison, they know the difference.
Okay.
But, yeah, I used to, some people did require that you fill that out, but that's really misleading, because you didn't really change AB.
Right.
You created AB, you didn't change it. Yeah.
The new numbering system for circuit boards, if you make a change to the board, there was some confusion as to where you did a draft request for an ECO. We're still wanting to write an ECO just for tracking purposes.
Yeah.
Can you release it in a draft request?
Yeah,
It's actually a new
you need to
part.
write the ECO, because the ECO, you are changing that board. You know,
But it's now a new part.
it's a new part because the board is the only part number that carries the revision with it, the raw board. And so when you see the NIC number, the NIC letters on the board, raw board, that is the revision. The last letter is the revision of that board. But that is the only part number that carries a revision on the number itself.
So we want to use an ECO just so
Yeah.
we can track the
Yes,
changes.
right. Because you're going to change your EPL. See, if you have AEA in your
Well,
EPL,
no, eventually you have to write an ECO to
Yeah.
change the EPL, but we're just working.
but you want to, yeah, you do want to track that change, you know, on the raw board itself. Anything else? Any other questions?
So in that case, is that an add and delete, or is it replace with?
Replace with.
And the part numbers have to be pulled before the ECO.
Yeah. Part number needs to be pulled, so, you know, when you're writing that ECO, or even before, you know you're gonna, at least drafting will take that ECO and you look at it and see what you want changed. You know.
But there's no check on the ECO. I mean, if the board number hadn't been pulled, you can still write the ECO. It doesn't,
Oh, yeah.
it doesn't tell you that it's not there.
Yeah.
It does?
You can always, you can throw some number in here that doesn't exist.
Okay, all right.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of times, this is a new number that has not been released yet, you know, or even pulled yet from Rick's group.
But when you do the EPL, she can't do it because the part number doesn't exist anyway.
Yeah, the EPL will not be done until they pull this and release it. Okay, any other questions? Okay. Today's gonna cover just, there's some other screens, like I said, you know, that you may or may not use, and we'll go over those real briefly, and then we'll be out of here.
Once we've written our ECO, what we're going to do, this last step, is we're going to do some error checking. We can go to the EORF screen. It'll carry forward our ECO number, and it will tell us if there are any errors. If there is an error, this particular ECO that we're using in this example has been in there, so it is clean. But it would give me the name of the field that was in error, transaction code, EORA or EORD, where the error is, and then a message stating what type of error it is. It needed to be a numeric field, or it was not a valid effectivity code. Whatever the problem was on that screen, it will be listed here. When I go to EORF, if I had two errors on EORF, I could go down and pick the very first one and say, okay, put I think it's S to select it, hit my enter key, and it would go back to the transaction code that was in error. It said EORD screen, and I believe it'll even set you on the field that is in error, and have it highlighted for you so that you can just go correct that particular effectivity code. More likely it's a typo or something like that. Correct that, hit your enter key to save that data. Always go back to your EORF screen until it is completely clear. Until it looks like this, your ECO is not ready to go start the approval cycle. If you have only one problem listed on EORF, and you go and you fix that, go back to EORF one more time, just in case that one particular transaction, say EORO, had more than one error. It could have just picked up the very first error it found and flagged that screen. Fixing that one error may have uncovered another one, so please just continue to go back to EORF until you get a clean screen, just like this one's displaying. Once I get all my errors out, then of course you would go back to your EORA, put your little Y on saying, yes, I'm ready to start the approval cycle, and it'll automatically notify people. Questions on this? Everybody's been through it, seen what the error messages look like. Just do yourself this favor, go back until it's clean. See if there's anything else.
Okay, give you one more chance. Any more questions?
I got
Go
one
look
more.
at page 19 and on. Those are just some screens that might be helpful to you. One screen that probably would be very helpful, well, two, is the EORE screen. If somebody rejects one of your ECOs, that will show up there. And then the EORX screen, which if you need a report like your product, and let's say it's ECA3, you can put ECA3 in there, dates in there, and you can get a report of all the ECOs that's been written against that product. And so that's a pretty good screen. I use it quite often. Yes, somebody have a question?
Oh, I was wanting to ask about, on the A screen, that supplemental documentation.
Yes.
What exactly is that for? I mean, does anybody ever use that?
Yes, yeah. If you've got a marked up drawing, you know, you
Yeah.
redlined it and all this, and you want that to be supplementary documentation, you need to put a Y in there, that becomes part of the ECO, and then you give a copy of that, put it in my basket, and then also give a copy to drafting. And they will make those changes to that drawing for that supplementary documentation. Then if anybody else that is approving the ECO wants a copy of that, they'll usually call me and I'll have a copy and I'll run a copy for them.
Okay. So you just use that if you thought somebody else might want to see that, see the markup?
You really should use it. You really should use it because we keep it on record. You know, if you drafting changed something that wasn't on there, and I mean, you know, you've got, you know, you showed them what you wanted changed, or they might have changed something, or they might not have changed something. So it's really good to use it. It's better. It's really good to use that because you've got your documented. I mean, you know, you've got what you gave to them. Otherwise, if you just walk over there and give it to them and say this is part of this ECO, well, where does it really show up on that ECO? If you don't have a Y there, then that's really not part of that ECO.
By the same token, if you put a yes or Y there for yes, and there is no supplemental documentation, design people and drafting people are spending valuable time looking for that documentation. So it is important to answer the thing correctly.
Any other questions? Well, I hope you enjoyed this. If you have any more questions, just stop by and ask, and we'll be glad to answer them. Thank you for your attention.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know. Can you copy it? One of the numbers I gave you?
These guys.
Maybe Jake's
I don't know how that really should be, but I mean, it wouldn't be really, but.
Now, what do they call it? Laptop, laptop?
Well, actually, that's the
You know, I don't ask for it.
It's the next, yeah.
Yeah, I'm curious to see where that is.
Well,
We've got.
we must not have done very well.
Huh?
We got finished way too early.
I don't know.